smoking up joints.
So guys, for today we will be discussing the elements of a short story. When we say elements of a short story, this is what builds up a story. So according to the song that we listened to a while ago, there are 5 elements of a short story. So the first one is this, the character. So we've already discussed the character in our previous lesson. If you remember, yung characterization. The character is divided into 2 kinds. First one is the protagonist, which is the main character of the story. Examples are Sleeping Beauty, the Prince Charming, Cinderella. When it comes to movies, we have Iron Man, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Superman. These are the heroes of the story. And most of the time, this is where the story revolves. This is who the story revolves around. The second kind of character is what we call the antagonist. The antagonist is the counterpart of the main character, or as we know it, we call them the villain, or in Tagalog, kalaban or kontrabida. So, most of the time, the story writers make protagonist and antagonist the exact opposite. For example, Batman, his antagonist is the Joker. If Batman is a person who is very justice-filled, he is filled with justice and he is organized, the Joker is a criminal who always likes chaos. So if Batman is organized, Joker is chaotic. The next part of a short story is what we call the setting. Now, the setting answers the question when and where. The setting is composed of 4 things. It can be the place, in a castle far away, deep inside the forest, under the sea, beneath the caves. Those are places. So, if you have a character, you have to put him in a setting where the story can happen. Next one is the time. We can talk about a long time ago. Or, one of the most favorite used line is this. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a prince or a princess. Okay, so most fairy tale starts with that. Once upon a time, long time ago. It can also mean what we call this the post-apocalyptic era for some of the movies. Yung pagkatapos ng nuclear fallout, may gumagawa sila na stories like that. It can also become in the past. It can also happen in the past. That's also a time setting. So those are examples of place and time setting. The atmosphere is the atmosphere around the setting. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it raining? Is it sunny? Is it dark? So that is the atmosphere. Those are examples of atmospheres in the story. And the mood is the sadness or the happiness of the surroundings. So, does the rain make it happy or sad? So that's the mood of the story. So those are also parts of the setting. Next one. So far, so good. The next one is the conflict. Now, it's not enough that you have a character and the setting. You need to have a conflict or a problem. A conflict is the problem that is currently faced in the story. It is what we call the character versus what. We have the protagonist. Now, what is this protagonist coming up against? Who is the enemy of the protagonist? Kasi, if you don't have someone who would fight the protagonist, then what's the story? For example, you have a character and you have a setting. Once upon a time, there was a young man who lived in the forest. That's done. Yeah, I just told you there's a young man who lived in the forest. What's the story? Nothing. We don't have problems. So you get the point? So there has to be a problem if you want the story to go on. So for example, examples of character versus what could be this. The character, I'm gonna type it. Off chat muna kayo for now. We can have character versus human. We can also have character versus animals. We can also have character versus nature. We can also have character versus supernatural being. Okay. Yeah, you can also have dinosaurs versus asteroids if you want to create a story like that. Pero, there has to be something that dinosaurs can do to stop it. Off chat muna! Okay, good. I think you have a good idea with that. Off chat muna. So, for example, we have character versus human. We'll have a character named, Stanley go up against this bad guy named Kurt. So that's human versus human, for example. Another kind of story is this, character versus animal. For example, we have Kellen, who is an adventurer who got lost in the forest. And then, he found himself being hunted by a pack of lions and tigers. So the story revolves around how will Kellen, the adventurer, survive in the jungle. You get the point? So we have the character, Kellen, the story, the setting, which is the forest, and the conflict, which is the animals or the animals trying to eat him. So the story will revolve around that. Gets? So there. Character versus nature, pwede yung mga Ending of the World, 2012, Geostorm, those movies like that. And character versus supernatural being, horror stories. So if you want to make horror stories, supernatural beings, you can go up against that. For example, Zyra was an archaeologist, tas may na-discover siyang jar, tas binuksan niya yung jar, tas may napakawalan siyang spirit, bad spirit, na sumunod sa kanya when she was about to go home. Of course, you won't die. Then soon you'll discover that there's a bad spirit that followed you. And the story will revolve around you trying to survive and trying to find a way to destroy the bad spirit. So yun yung story conflict. Do you get the point? Gets? Good. Next one, we have the theme. Now, a story needs to have a good theme. Ibig sabihin, you need to have a lesson or a message that you're trying to portray in the story to make it interesting. So a theme is the main idea of the story. It's the message and the lesson that you want to teach to the viewers or to the readers of your story. And last one, and the most important part of the story is this, the plots. Now, if you're writing a story and you want to make it easier, this is the best way that you can do. You need to follow a plot. Every story has a plot. First, we have an introduction, rising action, climax, and falling action and resolution. Now, if you want to know more about the story plot, I want you to listen to this song. Yay! Song! Yay! I want you to get your notebook, try to jot down the notes para may masagot kayo mamaya. Story plot.
Sir, may tanong po.
Yes.
Ano po ulit sa team?
Setting.
Apo.
Setting. A theme. Theme is the main idea, message, and lesson. So, it's what the story wants to tell you. For example, most of the fairy tales have lessons, diba? We have Pinocchio. What's the lesson that Pinocchio wants to tell us? Yes, very good. The story that Pinocchio wants to tell us is don't create human beings out of wood. I mean, don't lie. I want you to listen to this. This is the definition of plot. So let's listen or let's watch this video. I forgot this video is being recorded. What did I just say?
You are now muted.
If you're going to Plot Mountain, you gotta start somewhere. We'll call this the introduction. And guess what happens there? You describe the characters and the settings. That's the who, what, when, and where. The characters are the people that are there. What do they look like? Why should we care? And the setting is the place where they be. What exactly do the characters see on their way to Plot Mountain? At the start of Plot Mountain, you're gonna have to go up We call this the rising action, and here starts the plot. There's a conflict in the story. You should describe exactly what. Like a character has a problem to work through with themselves or the world. What should they do? Or maybe there's some big arguments, or some dramatic natural events on the way up Plot Mountain. Keep going up Plot Mountain until you reach the top. We call this the climax, and here you cannot stop. You must face the biggest problem that leads to a turning point. Here the story is the most intense, with emotions, drama, and suspense. But action like this cannot stay. The story must change and go a different way on the top of Plot Mountain. After the top of Plot Mountain, you're gonna start to go down. We call this the falling action, and it lasts until flat ground. There's still action in the story, but it will start to slow down. So the worst is over, yeah, the worst is through, but now what will the characters do? There are still some problems, how long will they last? And don't forget the ending's coming fast on the way down Plot Mountain. After climbing down Plot Mountain, well, it's gotta end somewhere. We call this the resolution, and what will happen there? You should answer all the questions until you are aware that the conflicts in the story from before aren't there anymore. Unless there's gonna be a sequel or a part 2, and then you'll have to think, what will the characters do the next time on Plot Mountain?
Ay, look at that boy, huh? Cooking up joints.